I'm going to call the session in order at 6:02. Okay.
Do you mind?
No, I don't want it. I'm going to start with roll call. Mayor Lara.
Here.
Pro Tem White. Gosh.
Here.
Carol.
Here.
Diana. Here. Elaine.
Here.
Jennifer.
Here.
Ray.
Present.
John.
John is probably still absent for health issues.
Okay. All right. Sean.
Present.
And Beneke.
Present.
Actions on any requests for excused absences. I believe we have any. And we will now go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. White, can you lead us, please?
Sure. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Approval or adjustments to the agenda. Okay. Yeah. Any conflict of interest disclosure? And we don't have any announcements, recognitions, proclamations, or correspondence. So
We do have an adjustment for number 2.
okay. On the agenda?
I just submitted over the special meeting to you, so we wouldn't be able to approve that today.
Okay. Do we have them?
I'd like to make a motion then to remove that.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and remove the approval of the minutes.
We need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Why are we doing that again? I'm sorry. I'm down here. I can't hear.
They were just submitted
Oh, okay.
today.
Today.
So they'll go on to the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that's going to be off. So now I would like to open up for public comment. Any one person may address the committee on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back table and give it to the recording secretary. And she is up here on the table with me. There is a 3-minute limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. State law prohibits the committee from discussing or taking actions brought up by your comments. And I think since we're starting to grow, I kind of just wanted to go over the standing committee. We were formed under the Beaumont City Council Ordinance number 1062 and adding Chapter 2.35 to the Beaumont Municipal Code. Our duties include advisory to the City Council, and we make recommendations regarding city investment policies and practices, long-term financial planning, and other such matters as the City Council may request from time to time. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's clear on the purpose of this committee. Okay. So now
You ready?
yes, we're ready.
So the first one up is Ron Roy.
Thank you, folks. Finances are cool, okay? I mean, it's all good to get into the financial details. As the City Council and your committee seeks to improve, this is a prepared statement, so hope you don't mind. As the City Council and your committee seeks to improve financial transparency, tonight I want to focus my concerns as narrowly as I can regarding the itemization of professional service fees charged to create and issue our CFD bonds, which are in the millions of dollars. A recent Press Enterprise article of May 22nd was titled, "Beaumont, Scrutiny Reveals Bonds in Bond Deal." This article looked at a $1.7 million bond deal made between the city and Al Capanicus's professional services team. Of the $1.7 million spent from the bond debt, only $887,000 went for the city projects. That's the infrastructure. The difference, a staggering amount, $836,000, or almost half the bond money, went to pay for 3 very nebulous sources couched in the following terms: discounts to bond proceeds, required reserve for fund for bond payments, and then most notoriously, professional services, which total $339,000 and includes a whole host of very questionable professional services fees. I'm requesting that the City Council and our City Financial Committee disclose and display publicly an itemized cost breakdown similar to the Press Enterprise article for not only the bond discounts and reserve requirements, but also the most controversial professional service fees, which includes a detailed cost of the following. And this is sort of like the magic ghost list, okay? First, we have and the article actually had individual payments for each of these in the thousands of dollars. Okay, first is attorneys. Okay, under attorneys, there would be a breakdown for bond counsel, disclosure counsel, underwriters counsel, authority counsel, consultants. That would include financing consultants, special tax consultants, market absorption consultants, also project engineer, and that was the notorious Urban Logic. Market study, our economist, appraiser, trustee, underwriter. Also, and this is really important to me, I think, the percentage of the total bond debt representing professional services should be disclosed. And the city should aggressively target lower professional service fees as a percentage of the bond proceeds, similar to the other financial markets. You know, like Charles Schwab or whatever, you know, or Templeton. They range between 5% and 12% rate, rather than a 50% rate, which I bet is used for all of our improvement areas bonds. If you go to all 59 bonds, you're at 50%. That's just outrageous. Okay, I think this public itemization goes to the heart of what Beaumont residents are concerned about regarding our city's financial transparency. I would also hope that in the future, when a CFD formation and associated bonds are requested by developers, that the City Council require, as a necessary condition of acceptance, estimated cost itemizations for the above services, especially professional services, and a bond issue book should be put on the city's website. And I found a really good site, which is emma.msrb.org. That bond issue book should be available for each improvement area. Finally, as Mayor Lara and other council have advocated, a wider RFP net needs to be cast so that Beaumont gets far more competitive rates for these services. Right now, my percentage, we only have like one group of people who have been doing this for 20 years, so an RFP would help. And again, you know, I have more extreme ideas, but I will go with that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. How do you want to facilitate multiple for different topics? Because you have an open public. So you just want to do it one by one?
Isn't it by topic?
Yeah, but I mean, just allow it by one first. Okay.
When you get to the topic.
Then we'll open it. Okay, so we have topic 1 for Judy Bingham.
I'm speaking on public comment.
Yes, public comment.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
That's the first one. I put them in numerical order.
Okay. Judy Bingham, 115 Minnesota. Just wanted to point out that the bond requisitions that were revealed this year and are on the city's website, finally, showed that in 2004, the city of Beaumont used Melrose taxes to harass its citizens and take away their rights. You might want to look at those in 2004. and see the invoices that were used against me and my property. But I'll move on from there. After the last council meeting, after the council had approved the $13 million bond debt, it was revealed that council was aware of the SEC subpoenas. And I'd like to quote from those. The term authority means the Beaumont Financing Authority, all of its office, departments, divisions, commissions, committees. And I believe you might want to know the seriousness of this committee. You know, if you're here on a ruse, forget it, because you're going to be investigated too. Affiliates, predecessors, successors, officials, officers, directors, board members, employees, agents, administrators, partners, and independent contractors. So if you haven't read those, they're now up on the city's website, and I would suggest that you take a look at the questions. I'll list them: Union Bank, O'Connor and Company, Securities, Moss, Levy, Hartzheim, Macias, Jenny O'Connell, Urban Futures. The term Beaumont bonds means all municipal securities issued by the Beaumont Financing Authority and the City of Beaumont, CFD 93-1. And here are the documents requested. A list of all persons or documents that show all persons who were aware of the city's insolvency, deficits, borrowing, negative cash position, and interfund loans. All list of documents that show all persons that participated in the preparations of the city's budgets, audits, financial statements, and control reports and their respective roles. All communications concerning the Beaumont bonds from January 1st, 2014 to the present, between or among the city, the authority, the district on the one hand, and any of the following persons or representative of such persons on the other hand: Union Bank, O'Connor, Will, Dan, Moss, Levy, Hartzheim, Macias, Jenny O'Connell, and Urban Futures. So my question is, did the Beaumont Finance Committee fulfill their subpoenaed request from the SEC by the deadline of May 13th, 2016?
Jennifer, do we have another?
Yep, sorry, I was taking notes. No, that's it for the public comment.
Okay, we're going to, of course, skip number 2, and we're going to go on to number 3, the city treasurer update.
Why are we skipping number 2? Did I miss something on that?
Oh, yes, you did.
Okay.
And we made a motion to remove that. The minutes were not posted until just recently, so
Okay.
we're not able to approve them.
On here, it talks about the approval of the minutes for meeting May 16th.
Yes.
The ones I got in the back are May 2nd. Did we already approve those previously?
May 2nd?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not on the agenda.
Yeah, May 2nd.
Okay, I just saw it back there. I grabbed it. But
We have
was
It was
Wrong
approved
date.
at our last meeting, yeah.
So we approved the May 2nd. That was the confusion then?
The May 16th was our special meeting.
Okay.
So
May
we've,
2nd was our beginning of the month meeting.
A regular meeting.
And we have the wrong date on the agenda.
No, I understand that. But so the May... Oh, so it just meant to say May 2nd then?
Right.
I'm not 100% clear that we have actually approved the May 2nd.
We would have done it at the special
We did not.
I don't believe
We
we
did not.
did. So I sent a note to Nicole today to ask her to clear that up. So if we do have to approve the May 16th, then at the next meeting, we'll make sure that we clear up any confusion on the 2nd also.
Okay.
And if they do need to be approved, we'll add both of them, and we'll get them posted and clear them both up.
Okay,
And
thanks
if
for the
Nicole
clarification.
says that they've already been approved, then we'll just make sure that the 16th gets added to
Got it.
that.
Okay, thank
If
you.
that's okay. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
that's fine.
Because they may have been approved already, and they may not have been. I just want to make
Okay.
sure, too, with Nicole, because she's kind of the last word on whether by her...
Well, it would be in the minutes of the May 16th whether we approve the minutes from May 2nd, so it should be easy enough to figure
Right.
out.
So
Okay, I didn't mean to hold up the meeting,
that's okay.
I was
So
confused.
we can just make sure with that, whether she sees that it looks like it's all clear, and then
Okay.
we'll follow through on the next meeting based on that. If that's all right.
Yeah,
with
let's go.
everybody else.
Let's move
Okay,
on.
let's move on. Okay, so the city treasurer update.
Mine is very brief because we're at the cusp of pretty much everything happening. The budget is about to go to draft status before council from the city's perspective, from the staff's perspective. The auditors are going to be in tomorrow to meet with staff. So everything is just about to get updated. So that means that there's nothing material to say today, because almost everything material for the next step happens actually tomorrow. And as soon as everything solidifies through the month of June and the beginning of July, then as we pass into August, I'll start meeting with city staff about moving forward on the monthly reports again that the treasurer will be doing to council, which then, of course, I'll share with the Standing Financial Committee. And so right now, we're kind of in Never Never Land, right before everything happens. So with that, that's the update.
SEO checklist update and process.
That is on the agenda tonight to be discussed in depth. So that's a much more in-depth discussion with the spreadsheet. And so I don't have just the treasurer's side of that. I'd like to...
But I think that's the agenda item we're talking about right
That's
now,
the
right?
agenda item. later on.
Okay, it just was
Okay.
inadvertently under the treasurer update.
Yeah,
It's a bullet point under it.
okay.
So I took it upon myself to do this process. Remember, we were provided with a couple of spreadsheets at our last regular meeting. And one spreadsheet was the guide that Elizabeth Gibbs was using to follow on recommendations from the State Controller's Office. And the other one was more of a template that the treasurer submitted as a suggestion. So my idea was to go through it, sort of merge them together, and then bring in some type of linkage to the State Controller's report. And as I started to do that, I realized that there wasn't a whole lot of value in that approach, because the spreadsheet that was from Ms. Gibbs was not really complete, and it really was sort of confusing to see. Here was mentioned an internal control and trying to line it up with a finding. So my idea was to go through and try and link all that stuff together. And I worked on it for a couple nights and got to the point that I needed to just basically start over. So what I have done is, and unfortunately it's on Google Drive. I don't know how many people use Google Drive. And it's something that I can share and something that I can provide to, I tried to print it. When I printed it out, the print came out really tiny. Even with glasses and a magnifying glass, it would have been hard to read it. So So I know it can be converted into an Excel and another document, so I'm going to get that to Nicole and to Mr. Warren for review. But basically what I did in it, it's nothing, I didn't create anything new as far as information. I went through the State Controller's report, and if you guys have read it, there's a whole first 40 pages as their findings. And the findings go from finding 1 to finding 10. And with each finding, they lay out the facts of what they found, the issues they found specifically, dollar amounts, accounts, that kind of stuff. And then at the end of each finding, they have a section that's called recommendations, where the State Controller says, we think you should do 1, 2, and 3. And then, since this was a report that was originally from the State Controller's office to the city makes their response to what the State Controller had written. The State Controller makes their final response, and that's when it's released to the public. So after each recommendation was the city's response. So what I did was, there's 2 sheets on the worksheet. The first tab is recommendations and responses. Finding 1, recommendations, responses. And I just copied and pasted everything. So there's nothing, I didn't add anything new to it. So it's all already out there in the public. I just organized it in a way that we can look at it faster. It brings 40 pages down to 2 pages or 2 or 3 pages on a worksheet. The other tab, what I did was there's a table about halfway through the report where they list all 79 internal control items. And each internal control item has, the first column says, what they're looking for. City has an audit committee. Next column, yes, no, and then the last column is an explanation of why they think or do not think that we followed that internal control. So that is another spreadsheet that has 79 items, and they're broken out by sort of by category. And the problem I was getting with Ms. Gibbs's presentation was she had findings mixed in with internal controls, mixed in with the different categories. So I have a second spreadsheet where all it is the 79, it's our checklist, it's the 79 internal control items. 76 of them have a no in the X, and 3 of them have yeses that we complied with those. So my idea was, going forward, there's plenty of extra columns that we should work with the city staff and city manager to go through and confirm which items have been completed. There are some items on there that we know have completed because we've passed resolutions like competitive bidding process. So we put that in place. So one column should say resolution number passed on such and such day, and then approved or signed off by treasurer, city manager, or finance department, whichever. And then that we can use going forward. And so that was what I have done, and I will, like I said, I will get it to you as soon as I can figure out the technology of getting it to the city to get it in a format that we can all read. So I wanted to throw that out there, and then we had some, I think there's some discussion on what we do with that now and move forward, and I have some ideas, but I don't want to hog the floor if anyone else wants to ask me questions or
Well, are we going to move this for the next meeting then to discuss, since we can't view the worksheet now?
I think the intention was to begin discussing it now. Because we can't afford to, especially if we've only got 3 of them.
Public comment too.
To where we've checked off yes.
Okay.
And we're so far along now. I think.
Do you think that we should hold off on that though until after we get the budget completed and in place?
Well, let me throw out my ideas for conversation. I have 2 ideas. I think we need to set up a process. None of us can go in to the inner workings of the city and determine what has been approved, what has been passed, what areas still need work on. And we're not in a position to direct staff anyways. So I would recommend that as the elected official that Nancy should work as our liaison between the committee and the city manager and basically be our oversight for the city to make sure things are getting checked off and report back to us on those. But there is an issue that I think really needs to be addressed, and Nancy, you and I talked about this earlier today, but I wanted to raise it again, and maybe you want to speak to it, about the role the Finance Committee plays versus the role that the State Controller's Office wanted an Audit Committee to play. And the reason I think that's important is because there are a number of internal controls where the State Controller told us that we were neglected, we were not in compliance with those internal controls because we didn't have an Audit Committee doing the things that an Audit Committee were supposed to do. In the city's responses, you'll see, is that we responded with, we've created this Public Finance Committee, and that's going to take on a lot of these roles. And the State Controller's response to that was, they've created a Finance Committee, good, that looks like they're moving in the right direction. My concern, when you start looking at all those controls and issues, and Nancy raised this to me, and it was a good point, is I don't believe we as a committee are fulfilling what an Audit Committee should do. And I don't think we're meeting those internal controls by just establishing the Finance Committee in place of an Audit Committee. And I personally don't think we need another committee. The State Controller's Office was fine with our Finance Committee, but they expected us to do the role of what they're looking for an auditing committee to do.
So we need to add that to our function as the committee?
Well, my thought was getting a couple, 2 or 3 members on the committee to focus on those internal controls,
right,
and come back to us as a whole and say, here's where we're not fulfilling our obligations,
right,
and then we need to take that to council and get the direction from council that yes, let's redesign the mission and the goal of the committee.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, I was in the meeting with the State Controller's Office when it was being explained to the State Controller's Office that we had a standing financial committee. And, you know, the devil is in the details. And there's a gap in understanding. You know, as that's being explained to the State Controller's Office, you know, they're nodding their heads and going like, oh, well, that's good. You know, and it is good. And I am proud of the fact that we did that. But what's in their head is, you know, they're thinking one thing, and then when you read through that paperwork of their findings and you read through that spreadsheet, and if you really read it, they're looking for an analysis of people to really make sure that they're monitoring what the city is doing in terms of fiscal responsibility. So we have to make sure that that gap is met.
Right.
And so if it means that, I don't know, 2 or 3 people from the Standing Financial Committee function to make sure that that gap is met, otherwise we're saying one thing to the State Controller's Office and we're not really fulfilling what it is that we're assuring in a meeting that we're doing. And the paperwork really reads that there's some fiscal responsibility there that we must make sure that we rise to the occasion to do.
So, meeting that, would that be a subcommittee then?
That was my thought, maybe
and then
3
lay
members.
out the function of the subcommittee
No.
in meeting what the state is looking for?
I'm not in favor of doing a meeting to create a meeting to create a meeting or to create a committee. So I'm just thinking tonight we could pick 3 members here to go and focus on those internal controls, and they're very clear because they say audit committee on them, and go through them and make a checklist and say, okay, I think one of theirs talks about us meeting with auditors. We're not doing that. We're getting our we're relying on city staff to tell us what the auditors are telling them.
Okay.
And that's not the roles that the State Controller is expecting us to play. And that's just one example.
Right.
But I'd like to see a group, a couple committee members to bring back at the next meeting. Here's some things that we're not doing that the State Controller thinks we're doing.
And it's a delicate situation. It isn't that anybody is desiring to step in front of staff, but there's clearly a gap that needs to make sure that it's knit together. That's all.
But if you read their recommendations and their list of internal controls and the responses to why we're not meeting those internal controls, it's easy to get an understanding. I just didn't think it was the role of myself or other elected officials to do this. I think it'd be better coming from committee members to the whole committee, because anything we do has to go back to council to get council's approval. I don't know, what do you think, Mike?
So, well, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. What you're looking at is
Let's see if I can find the wording.
a committee made up of finance committee members to go through and analyze and find out where we're falling short, and then bring that back to our committee, the Standing Finance Committee, and then that we would discuss and then take it to council.
We'd make recommendations to council.
I like that idea. I think it's we've got to find out where we're falling short first.
Right. I mean, there's 79 controls, and I would say 10 of them are about this audit committee that we've created.
Right.
So we can, the city, we can't do much about the other 69. Those are something that, we can oversee and make sure that the city, or help the council oversee and make sure the city's complying with those internal controls.
Well, let me get something clear. I have always been under the impression, and having worked in city government in the past, not here in Beaumont, but in another city, we had experts, quote, the experts come in and audit our city finance, independent experts. These people they went through RFP process, they bid the thing out. These people would come in, they'd audit the books, they'd find certain things that weren't right, they'd make recommendations, the city then would adjust accordingly. My understanding is that was done here, apparently, I think. Sort of, maybe, I don't know. But my question is, are we duplicating any efforts that should be ongoing in the beginning? I mean, from the get-go. Any responsible city should be doing...
No, because that's I think what you're talking about is our annual audit, right? When we have the financials audited. Is that what you're speaking of?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think this is more of a procedural to make sure that the back end...
Every audit I've ever seen done correctly by a legitimate forensic audit firm, they'll list procedures, they'll list the whole 9 yards of it, okay?
Richard, maybe this will help. I happen to have some of this with me. Let me just read it.
This is not off of my worksheet. This is straight from the controller's report, but it's all there. It's the same stuff.
This is Betty E's report. This is the State Controller's report. Audit Committee, which is what we're supposed to sort of be similar to, or a metaphor for. Audit Committee. A, does the city have an audit committee that is appropriate for the size and nature of the city? Finding, the city did not establish an audit committee. B, are members of the audit committee independent from the city management, meaning that it's not staff? CA 3, which means the city didn't establish it. C, do audit committee members have sufficient knowledge, experience, and time to serve effectively? Finding, CA, which means they don't have it. Am I reading this clearly? Mm-hmm. Okay. D, does the audit committee meet regularly to set policies and objectives, review the city's performance, and take appropriate actions, and are minutes of such meetings prepared and signed on a timely basis? Finding, CA, which means no. E, do the members of the audit committee regularly receive the information they need to monitor management's objectives and strategies? Findings, CA, meaning no. Audit Committee, F, does the Audit Committee review the scope and activities of the internal and external auditors? Finding, CA, meaning no. G, does the Audit Committee meet privately with the Chief Financial Officer and/or accounting officers, internal auditors, and external auditors to discuss the reasonableness of the financial reporting process, the system of internal control, significant comments or recommendations, and management performance. Finding CA, which means no. H, does the audit committee take actions as a result of the audit findings? Finding CA, which means no. That's just one section. So do you guys...
So that's about 10
any of
controls
that?
right there.
Do you think we're even close?
Well, no, I think the first 4 or 5 that we've
So I think we
done
need
that.
to sort of close the gap a little bit.
Well, what I'm saying is that you have an audit. I don't have the expertise. I don't know if anybody on this panel has the expertise of doing forensic audits. But you have an auditor do an audit of the city budget, okay? It comes back. That's public information, public knowledge. And if you read through the fine details of audits, they have recommendations, and they say this is right and this is right. Now, what I'm thinking is that maybe what they're thinking, the state, and I'm not in the state's head, is that there should be a committee that looks at these audits that are being done to see if the city is complying with the auditor is requesting the city to do. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think that's part of it, but for...
Because cities could blow these audits off. I've seen it done before. I mean, they go, well, yeah, it's one guy's opinion, you know.
It's been done here for the last at least 5 or 6 years.
Obviously.
So what I'm suggesting, what I'm saying is that I read it as the audit committee is mainly not interested in did the auditors do their job, because you're right, none of us are auditors, but we are interested in is the process, is the system that we have set up accomplishing what the audits should accomplish. In other words, is council addressing the issues that the auditors are bringing up? But I think it's more, in order for us to make decisions on how to move forward, we need to have that discussion with the auditors, not through a third party, the staff, and then the auditors. And that's one of the issues. But that was 10 internal controls there right off the bat. And I think, you know, we've set up a committee. It meets regularly. We know, you know, all of us have different skills that we bring to the group.
Well, we have a perfect opportunity with the checklist. Mm-hmm. It isn't that we have to dive in and try to do the work of staff, but if we work with staff in the checklist, and we've got a template for...
So you don't think the structure of the committee needs to be adjusted?
Pardon me?
You don't think the structure and the process of the finance committee needs to be adjusted to meet the state? Okay.
But I mean the checklist too is the perfect tool template for making sure that we adhere to all of the findings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I thought in the last 2 meetings discussions that this checklist list would be that product that we produced to make the auditing accountable, process accountable.
But we have to make a minor adjustment to the committee. We can't do it.
And then 2 that were regularly audited.
Right. And that was the idea, was that there was a checklist that was developed by the State Controller's Office that we made responses to. And so the idea was to provide a hard copy, something we can all point to. Item internal control number 32 was approved and fixed and got the blessing of both the staff and the committee on such and such date.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
In the employee handbook or policies and procedures.
So you're asking,
physically point out.
You want a committee then to be responsible for that checklist?
No, that's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's what we do as a whole. What I'm saying is, let's take the one example there. I think it was F or G, the one about meeting with internal and external auditors. Is the committee meeting with our internal and external auditors? Now, we're a little bit at a disadvantage because we haven't presented an audit since, we haven't been presented with an audit since this committee was created. So to answer whether or not we're doing that, but I think if you read the mission and the reason this committee was set up, I think it was not explicitly to meet with the auditors. It was more on an advise and consent basis. And what I'm saying is I would like 2 or 3 people from our group to look at the items that directly relate to us, relate to our committee, and make recommendations whether or not we're meeting those. For example, that one I just brought up, the subcommittee comes back and says, look, we're supposed to be meeting with internal audits. I don't think that our direction from the City Council provides us with that ability or that permission to do that. So we as a committee would then say, let's recommend to Council that we change the ordinance to say that they will meet with internal auditors before, after, whenever the process.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, I would definitely think we need to change it, because our original theme of the committee was not directed in an audit form, at least to my interpretation, in any way, shape, or form. So,
exactly.
And we haven't had the ability to meet with those resources and dive into the great detail in order to provide that feedback. So,
now, another recommendation that an idea would be to go back to Council and say, you need an audit committee. But we've already told the State Controller that this committee will do the role of the audit committee. I don't think we need to keep creating more and more committees. So I'm just suggesting that we can adjust our mission and our goals to meet
that. Would be the committee would, I think we'll have public comment later, right?
Chair?
Yeah, we will.
So the committee would identify those areas where we need to add responsibilities to this existing committee.
Correct.
To meet that intent.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
And, you know, I think even step one, just from what Nancy was just reading, was that we needed to have these functions within the Standing Financial Committee.
Right.
That could be just step one right there, without even heading to that.
Well, yeah, some things we may not need to go to Council about.
Yeah.
We do
Ms.
have
Bingham,
a public comment for Judy Bingham for this.
We never know whether to do public comments before we discuss or after we discuss, but if you're ready.
She's ready. She's ready.
Boy, am I ready. Jeez. You people. Good Lord. Anyway, you know, there's the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District right across the street over here. They have a finance and audit committee. They have 2 people from the board. The public is invited. I've invited you to go and see what they do. They meet once a month. It's right before the meeting. Every check, there's someone there with the backup for every check. Why aren't you people doing that? It's pretty simple. You've got the template right over there. Why can't you do it that way? It's called the Finance and Audit Committee. Anyway, so what else I wanted to say about this is, I brought for months the hot pink binder with the State Controller's report in it to Council. I held it up. It's been 7 months. And so this is how far we've gotten on this. You have no staff. There is no funding for the city clerk's department. There has not been a finance department on the budget since 2012. In order to satisfy the State Controller's report, the city would have to hire a finance director, 3 accountants, and 3 to 5 account techs to accomplish the task. I hope that is on the budget, because last year the taxpayers were ripped off by this city council. Government documents have been destroyed, government documents have been forged and are being forged to this day, and the city still cannot produce an employee roster or payroll. So you should all be ashamed of yourself.
Okay, so any thoughts on who the 3 people should be? If we're going to move forward with that, does anyone have an objection to that idea?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Is there a public comment as far as the procedure then?
Oh, did you fill out a form? I'm sorry, I didn't know you filled out a form.
We only have topic 4. We don't have we don't have Ron Roy for.
I think we should let him speak.
Go
ahead.
I'll move on. I appreciate Mr. White, because you are trying to identify a really important problem we have, which is the auditing function. And now you're stuck with this. Well, the committee, it says financial committee. So understand, what's the role of the committee? you know, how broad should the functions be, what areas of responsibility should it have, and it's important to bring that up because it is all about audit. So I'll just say something, and again, I just should throw the ball up in the air, you catch it any way you want, right? I mean, everybody's going to give your ideas. But the way you report the information will flow to everything else, the auditing. So if you get a good reporting system and a good disclosure system, it's going to flow back to the state audits that come periodic. Get a really good reporting system where you get very specific identification of all the transactions that takes place as far as how you categorize them, you know, and, you know, get into that procedure, arrive at that, it will go into everything else. It devils in the details, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't want to go any farther, but because you just go complicated, like the financing authority, you know, should that have its own separate reporting system? Is that a separate legal entity under California versus the city? You know, there's a billion issues. But I just think as a general rule that if you get the reporting system down, maybe a software issue, getting good software, but boy, that's going to be everything, and it'll flow. So that my idea is, where do you focus? But, you know, I do appreciate you. Keep that auditing function somewhere in the city, you know. All right, thank you.
I'd like to respond to both the public comments. It was my suggestion and idea, and others agreed with me, that we didn't know whether the state controller's 79 items were actually getting processed, and we were relying on staff to tell us that. And I was not comfortable moving forward not knowing. And so that's the whole purpose of why we had this conversation about this item was, hey, we have an obligation to meet the requirements the state controller put out in their report. So you know, that's what we're trying to do here. And then Mr. Roy, to respond, reportings were there. The BFA is a separate entity. It has its own audits. The audits were being done. They were not. It doesn't mean if you just do an audit, it doesn't mean, or my understanding that the audits were being done, because I've seen, this was before I was on council, but I've seen documentation showing that audits were being paid for to do Beaumont Finance Authority. The audits that came out of since 2011, since I've really dived into it, expressed, it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone of where we are financially if they've been paying attention to the audits. It's something that I've been trying to point out to people when they come to me and say, wow, did you know? And it's like, all you have to do is read the audits and you'll find out. So the fact that we're auditing, the fact that we're reporting the audits, we still got in trouble. And we got in trouble because there wasn't the oversight. And this committee was designed to provide some oversight to our processes, to make sure that the community, that the citizens were involved in oversight. And that's why you see this committee is made up of two-thirds citizens and only one-third electeds. And that was by design, so that we would be more answerable to the city. So, anyone else want to talk?
Well, and you're absolutely right. And we've had a problem with process. The whole process is I don't want to say corrupt, but maybe that's the correct word. But the whole process. So we as a committee are looking not only at what do we audit, but we have to have a process to follow to be able to audit something. So it's the dog wagging the tail wagging the dog. Yes, we do need to be accountable to the state audit. We also need to be accountable to any internal audits from outside agencies that present themselves to us with their recommendations. That all has to work together. And if by creating this or expanding the authority of this finance committee to be responsible for all those audits, I think we're moving in the right direction as a citizens group. Maybe we should rename it the Finance Audit Committee.
We definitely have to change the name, I would think. If
we're going to do audit, might as well change it to that. So
as long
that could be a recommendation we give to council.
As long as citizens are aware that this is something that just came up today. I mean, I had no understanding before that we were responsible for auditing. So if this is new, and I know as we're digging into the trenches, we're trying to pull everything up that we're not doing and correct it. And I feel the committee's been very effective in creating balances, checklists, compliances, matrices, plans for the finances, running the finances, accounting for the finances, checking for areas that we lacked accountability. So I feel like we've made a lot of headway. We're trying to move our funds and move forward with banking. So I feel like we've made positive steps, but if this is the next step to dig into the trenches, then yeah.
Okay, so at this point, I would like to make a motion to form a 3-person subcommittee.
I'd like to suggest that, Mr. Bernanke, are you, you're an alternate, or?
I'm an alternate.
Can an alternate serve?
That's what I was wondering. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I don't have any voting. I'd like
He doesn't have voting.
Hey, Sean.
I'd like, yeah, Mr. Bellingett, and since these ladies are doing everything else at this point.
Well, we're going to need one of those ladies to make up the department.
But before we do that, don't we need to, I would like one of these members to recommend to the council that we change our name to Finance Audit, if that's appropriate, and then appoint some people to an audit committee. Unless that's already assumed under
I think we're
approval.
fine where we are.
I didn't hear the conversation between you guys.
We were suggesting
Recommend Sean and Ray.
Sean and Ray, and I think we need one more because we talked about a 3-person committee.
Well, I'd like to recommend the strongest financial people on it, which I think would be Jennifer and Elaine, because they both have, Jennifer's an accountant,
Right.
Elaine has banking experience,
Immense banking experience.
Ray has financial experience, so I'd like to consider him also, but I would like to not be excluded from it because of the
No, I think you're
criticality to the city.
Well, I think you as an elected would be the liaison between the finance committee and the
Right.
city manager.
I'd like to sit in on the meetings. I'd like to make sure I'm involved in the meetings, though.
Well, I mean, we're just going to get back to having a financial committee go through and do, but it's good. The idea is to have 3 people on this committee delve into the items that we're falling short on, to come back to present them to this committee so that we can get additional duties assigned to the committee to meet the state auditor report.
They're going to be the fact finders.
Right, exactly.
They're going to be, and they're just going to give us the facts.
I would
What are
just
they gonna
like
do,
the
the fact
guidance
finding
from
on?
somebody that's really,
I'm not sure what they're
you
going
know,
to...
like had been there with the audit to bring that in, or are you thinking that we should bring the information back and then
Exactly.
and then figure out whether it meets or it doesn't meet it?
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to find out what are we doing and what are we not doing, what are we not getting done.
I think the role that the treasurer can play in this, just as the role she would play with the reports back from the staff about which internal controls have been approved and everything, is to provide oversight on whether or not the subcommittee has put together a complete list of.
But I'm not sure. What's the deliverable? So explain to me what the deliverable is. I'm not sure what it is.
The deliverable would be recommendations to the Standing Finance Committee as to what roles we're not meeting that the State Controller's Office wants us to meet.
Okay.
So
I'm
maybe
sorry.
just internal control item number 3, internal control item number 15.
So they're going to, so this group is going to tell you
Us.
that...
The committee.
Or tell what...
Share with
We're
us.
not meeting item number 3.
Correct. That our direction from the council does not give us the ability to ask the auditors to come in and sit down with us and answer our questions. Regardless of where they are in the process, whether the process is they're just starting, we're hiring them, whether it's the process of they're about ready to submit a draft to the council, or whether they've completed the audit.
And how are they going to find out the answer to these questions?
I think everyone here knows what our role is so far.
Okay, but you don't think it's going to help them cut the length of time if I'm involved with that?
I would like some fresh eyes who aren't involved, aren't in the details of all of this, to look at this from a fresh perspective.
I hear a lot of good ideas, but nothing's coalescing in my mind on how this is going to work. effectively and efficiently
It's
without
okay.
creating another committee.
I'll go along with whatever the committee wants. I just think that it's being made unnecessarily cumbersome because there's a lot of knowledge that I have on the process that would make it go a lot faster. But
I agree with
you
that.
can do it any way that the committee wants to do it. I think that's making it unnecessarily cumbersome.
Well, I don't. I think it requires a committee, whether it's this full committee or a subcommittee. I might agree, you may have
You can
quite a
do
bit
it
of
any
knowledge.
way you want to do it, but I think it's being made unnecessarily cumbersome, and I actually don't know why. But you go, but I'll support any way you want to do
Cumbersome in
it.
what fashion? Well, go ahead and share.
Because I could go right to the section on the report immediately that I
We don't need a
knew
committee.
where
We
we
have
weren't
you.
accountable,
You're the answer.
and I could point it out.
Is that what you're telling
And
us, is that you
I
are
could
the
share
subcommittee?
that.
You have...
No, I'm just saying, it's my level of knowledge on a lot of these
Well, I think you would
issues
be a valuable part of that committee.
happens to make it.
Well,
little
and
bit
I think
quicker.
that's a good
But
argument.
you go right ahead.
But wait a
It's
second.
okay. I'm not upset about it. You go right ahead. I don't have any reason to defend it. I'm just trying to help.
I
So
would
you
enjoy
go right ahead.
joining you on a committee.
Go right. It's okay.
Can I add?
So it was
Yes,
a great
please.
suggestion, Mike, and that's a good team.
So my argument is that the idea of this committee was that all of us were very aware of what the state controller's report said. And the fact that one or two or three of us have a much better understanding of what the state controller's report says than the other six may, because we deal with it in council meetings on a regular basis. I don't see any disadvantage in getting three more people to dive in deep and have three more new people look at it. But I agree with Mr. Ballinget. What is cumbersome about? I mean, you also said you made a comment that you don't know why we're being.
I think it's good, and I think the first three names were probably a really good suggestion, and it was a good cross-section of new people, and I think
Okay, what were those three
Richard,
names?
Sean, and Ray was probably a good suggestion.
But Richard can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do it.
I do agree that I think Nancy does have valuable information that would be a good component of that committee.
That's all right. You guys go right.
Okay, someone make a motion.
Don't defer. I think you would be a good addition.
Okay, so I move that it be Nancy Carroll, Sean Ballinget, and Ray Santos on the subcommittee.
A second.
So we're creating a subcommittee that will give us authority to, what?
We're going to, actually, I think we can answer Nancy's concern before, which is what deliverables
Well,
they're
I
going to
think
come
I'll-
up with.
I think I'll bow out, and I think I'll give it to Elaine, if that's all right.
May I finish? May I finish?
Sure.
Okay, I was suggesting that the committee will come back to us with whatever deliverables I thought having Nancy on the committee, that's where this direction would go, is that she would be able to provide insight onto what the best deliverable would be. I don't know if that's changed now. We actually haven't passed the motion. But I believe that the idea is the subcommittee comes back to us, makes recommendations to where we're not able to fulfill the requirements of the State Controller's Office, then we as a committee as a whole determine what items we're going to go to council and ask for direction on.
So as a committee as a whole, we're not able to do that. So now we're electing to appoint three people to delve into the more details, which we as a committee as a whole obviously cannot do.
Correct.
So this committee as three will delve into more of the details, sift through it, come back then with recommendations to the committee as a whole that then we will either agree with or not agree with. If we agree with them, we then pass those recommendations on to the council.
Correct.
Okay. So you need to understand where we're going.
That's my understanding. Anyone see it differently?
So I'd like to go back to Nancy's statement earlier about how do we do that? I mean, do we call up the city manager and sit down with that person and say, what have you done and what have you not done? I mean, is that our...
When you are saying we, do you mean the subcommittee or do you mean us as a committee?
The subcommittee to get the information and then present it to the Standing
I think
Financial
the
Committee.
subcommittee has a good understanding of what we as a committee have been allowed to do. So I think if you go through that whole list of items that Nancy brought up, it's clear that there's some items we've done and we are doing, and then there's some items that we don't have the authority to do. We can't ask the auditors to come in here without going to the council and saying, give us permission to ask the auditors to come in here and answer our questions. So we can't do that. So if you're trying to understand what deliverables, I think Nancy had some deliverables in mind when she asked that question. So I think if it's Nancy and Mr. Ray and Sean can get together, review what's in the internal control report. I mean, again, you don't need my worksheet because it's all in the report, and you can refer to the report more than my worksheet. We'll get the worksheet out as soon as we can, but it's just the same data that's in the report, and that they can come back to us and deliver to us what they think addresses. I mean, Nancy, you understand what we're asking for, right? Are you not clarified on what we're asking for?
Oh, I'm not on the team. It's Sean and
Ray.
No, that was the motion was Sean, Ray, and you.
It hasn't been seconded yet. No,
Okay.
no.
I second the motion.
Okay, second.
Yeah, he did make the second, so let's vote on it.
I declined.
So who do we have? What is the end names?
Elaine, would you like to do that, or?
I don't mind doing it. I just want to have a very clear understanding. I'm a little confused as to, I mean, I can go down the list and, like we did with what she read. I know we're not complying with that. We don't have a team in place.
Correct.
But when you go to another segment that has to do with procedural systems, I don't know how to gather that information without going in and finding out, do we have a procedure book I can bring home and read? You know what I mean?
I don't think we're precluded from contacting staff.
Do you have a controller for the city? Are you planning on hiring a controller?
That's out of the scope of what we're talking about right now. Let us address this. Elaine?
What do you see, Mike, as far as drawing information?
If you have a question on a procedure, you can reach out to city manager and he can, with the list. Here's some of the items. We've been through items 1, 2, and 3, and of those 3 items, this one asks for a procedure. We haven't seen anything. Please point us in the direction.
Okay.
And then if he gives you ordinance 10.1 or Marlena gives you item 10.1, we can put that down as one of the items, and then we move on to the next one.
So now, do we need council to authorize us to do this? As far as
for us to create a subcommittee?
Meeting with the
Well, she's meaning
staff?
open access to all of the records of the city.
I think you can go through our liaison with the staff, which is the treasurer, if she will do that. You could go to her and say, these are the information we need from staff, and then she is in a role to be able to meet with the city manager.
But she's been doing that already. She already has that information.
I guess I'm at more of an advantage because the process I went through to pull out every recommendation, every response, as well as almost type every single internal control, is I understand looking at it that it's obvious we're not fulfilling those issues. And I'm just, have you read the
I've read the
controller's
entire audit. I have the controller's report, but I have not seen your report yet, on
Right.
where we fulfilled or not. But
my report doesn't tell you that. My report just lists the recommendations and the city response.
My concern is, being in accounting and taxes and auditing myself, is that even my individual knowledge, I don't feel, is where it would need to be to audit the city. I would need to know substantially more about city financing regulations, bonding, etc. Could I look at a P&L or a balance sheet and see oddities, abnormalities? Yes. And could that cause me to dig more? Yes. But I would think that as a committee, whatever committee we establish, definitely needs to be educated some in finding those anomalies and looking in the numbers, because auditing is completely different than saying, are we doing our checks and balances, for example? Is the technician that's checking in the money the same one that's paying it out? No. Okay, great. So we've established that they haven't done that. But are we really looking at it, and have we checked those entries of that person, and do we know for a fact that they're also not covering both jobs when, payroll's shorter, etc.? If you're not in depth into that on a regular basis, you might miss these loopholes that are the auditing we need. These are the errors we were making that were causing the problems. So I understand from Nancy's perspective where if she already has access to the documentation and can go, here are the P&Ls, here is the resource, this is where we can get it, then we can get to it faster. But then we also still have to have the knowledge to be able to look at those numbers and know when it's smoke, when it's not correct, or whether we're following through with the audit report. So just my concern is, I honestly feel like we might need a few more heads to the committee in
I
bookkeeping.
don't disagree with what you're saying at all, and that's why Nancy has the information. I just don't understand the recalcitrance and not wanting to be part of that.
But I disagree that...
Because when I've worked and I've developed teams for a lot of years, and I've been part of teams for a lot of years, and if I'm going to be part of a team, I want the team to be successful, and I want to have a say in the team. And I don't want somebody to tell me who the team is and then to be responsible for the success of the team. So I don't want somebody to say to me, it's you, and it's you, and it's you, and then you better be good.
Yeah. Well, I understand your statement, but I disagree because we are all part of this committee and we all have an equal say.
But I have two comments.
That's the
First,
point. We all have an equal say, which means that you, Sean Belinget, should not be able to sit there and say, this is who the team is, and you better be good.
Excuse me.
And nobody else should be able to say it either.
Let me speak for a second. First of all, the original motion was to have you be part of the committee, not to tell you that here's the committee you have to work with. The original motion, we discussed what the committee should structure, and we came to a conclusion that we had a motion and a second, and you didn't let us vote on it. That would have made you...
So I'm the best liaison. So why don't you let me pick my team?
I withdraw the motion then.
Okay, may I finish, please? The other issue is, Jennifer, I don't believe this committee's role is to audit anything other than the process.
It's not.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what the number, it's not our job to look at the numbers and know auditing rules.
It's just
Okay.
to get the best
I think it would be a
information.
good, I think it'd be a good role. I would have suggested you as being on the committee because you do have the auditing experience. I'm just auditing two things. Are we complying with the state controller's 79 checklist? One. And the other thing, is the system and process that we have in place going to get the city moving forward the way that that the community believes it should?
Okay.
So, so Nancy, what do you want to do? Because you go ahead and why don't you make a motion as to who's on the committee, and we'll see if that flies.
I only feel that the responsibility of whoever is on the team is just to get the best information. That's the only responsibility of this team.
Okay, you wanted to pick your team. Make a motion.
It's not to do anything else because the city.
We understand. Just make a motion. Who do you want on the team? Just tell us, and we'll see if it flies.
I want me, Jennifer, and Elaine. And that's my motion. And it's just for information. That's all. And I want us to get the best information we can for the city, and I want to give it to you guys, and then you guys make the decisions. And then we make the recommendations to council, and then council makes the decisions.
Okay.
It's not mine, and it's not anybody else's decision.
Before we second that and vote on that, the reason I like the idea of Mr. Santos and Mr. Belinget, there was no hidden politics behind it. The idea was that so far we've done the RFP committee, we've done a couple other subcommittees, and it seems to be. I just wanted to spread out the responsibilities and opportunities to more people on the committee to be involved.
Make Elaine lead, or make Jennifer lead.
I have a question.
I don't care.
Question?
Okay.
I have a question. Would it be 3 members plus you?
I only include me just because I know some city information, and because they know
So-
a lot of accounting information.
Okay, yeah, but my question is when it's 3 persons, should we take 3 of us not
Yeah, that's what
affiliated
we-
with the city, and then you, because you're the one that's like the head of the group?
That's okay.
I kind of think that would probably be better.
I mean,
Well, we have a motion, we need to
Okay, so is there a second?
do something with the motion
Yeah,
that
is there a
was made.
second on Nancy's motion?
Sorry.
Deal with that.
Okay, I've lost track.
Nancy made a motion
I
that
made
the
a
committee be
motion.
made up of Nancy Carroll, Jennifer, and Elaine Morgan.
Now, don't we have to deal with our first motion?
No, he would.
Yeah,
He withdrew.
Oh, he was.
Mayor Laura withdrew.
yeah.
You withdrew it?
Yes.
Because we were
Or
told
she.
at the time Nancy didn't want to be on the committee, subcommittee. So that's why
Did
this
the
was
latest motion die for lack of a second, or is it still?
We're still waiting.
No, what motion do we have now? Nancy's?
The motion was the 3 of us.
Okay. May I second that motion?
Sure.
I second the motion.
Okay. So wait a minute.
Call
So
for a
it's-
voice
3.
and vote.
I lost track.
For a vote.
Let's call for a vote. Mayor Laura?
No.
Ray Santos?
Okay, yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
I'll say yes. Nancy?
Yes.
Diana, no.
Mr. White?
No.
I don't vote.
Yeah, he doesn't vote.
No. Valentin? No.
Who are we missing?
John.
John
John.
Hallwell said.
Oh, okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 no's?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we create the subcommittee of Nancy Carroll, Jennifer, and I'm sorry, Jennifer, I don't remember your last name.
Burnett.
Burnett, and Ray Santos.
I'll second that.
Carol.
Who's the new motion? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Oh, Nancy Carroll, Jennifer Benedict.
Nancy Carroll.
Burnett.
Burnett, I'm sorry.
Like the hair color.
Burnett, Burnett. Now I'm going to start calling you Brunette.
That's okay. Brunette, Burnett.
Jennifer and Ray.
And Ray, okay.
Okay.
That's our next motion.
Yes.
Okay. We need a second.
There was a second by Mr. Bellingen.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Okay. Mayor Laura?
Aye.
Ray Santos?
Aye.
Elaine?
No.
I say no. Nancy?
Yes.
Diana, no.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it passes.
5 yes, 3 no.
Motion passes.
Then it is.
No, he can't vote.
Oh, that's right.
I think the alternate ought to be the swing, but, oh, my
So does, what does that mean now?
So it's 5 yes.
5 yes, 3 no.
Then it
Passed.
passed.
Okay. Okay. So it'll be Nancy Carroll, Jennifer Burnett, and Ray Santos.
Okay, so be it.
And so this committee will get together before the next meeting and then come back with a kind of an overview of the checklist.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Jennifer.
I got dizzy on that one.
It's not like I need more work.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
If it becomes too much work, I mean, I'll let you guys know. I mean, I have a 7-year-old and a full-time job, so I might need to relinquish the secretary position if it becomes too much in the auditor position. So I don't know, but I'll keep you guys posted on how much I can manage, okay?
My vision is that this is a subcommittee one and done, and that when you guys come back with the deliverables, then we can
That's
make
it.
representations to
Oh,
the council.
okay.
Yeah.
You're not doing auditing, it's not
No.
accounting work.
No, of the checklist, okay.
Of the checklist and
Okay.
and
again,
recommendations.
it's fact-finding of
Yeah.
that
Right.
checklist. That's it.
Okay.
Real simple.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right, where are we?
Maybe shorter than the discussion.
Where recommendations from committee?
Are there any recommendations from committee? Say no on that one.
Regarding anything?
From the committee to the council, is that what you mean by
Yeah,
recommendation?
is that what it
I'm
means?
sitting here looking at this at the end of the city treasurer update. Where is this supposed to be?
Should have been separate. So is it
There aren't any.
recommendations on
I
any?
think you had a good recommendation earlier, which is that we consider changing the name of the committee to make it more along the lines of State Controller's Office's request. So Finance and Audit Committee, I think, is
So it's
was a
changed.
good recommendation.
Change name.
So I'll make a motion to change the name to financial, what is it?
Finance and Audit.
Finance and Audit Committee?
Yeah. Second that.
That's a good idea, because that gives us some flexibility,
I'll second.
Yeah.
more flexibility, latitude.
One of the things that, do we need another meeting before the July meeting?
I thought we had discussed that and said yes.
Well, if we're going to have a subcommittee, we definitely need to have something.
Yeah. Do we need another meeting date before the July date?
Yes.
A meeting of the whole committee?
Yeah.
For what purpose?
I'm just asking.
We have
There-
minutes that need
We're
to be
gonna have-
approved and,
Pardon me?
oh no, go ahead. I just said we had minutes that need to be approved. You were going to add something to that.
Well, we are not going to discuss we won't
Yeah.
be discussing the budget until July. We're not going to discuss the checklist until then. I don't know. I just don't know.
But, you know, we
Anybody
did, I
feels we
don't
need
know if
one.
this was by plan or inadvertent, but we were going to, I thought at this meeting, cover what we were going to do, start our planning of the CFD overview process of people asking for changes.
We pushed
We
off
did
of the agenda.
discuss that
Okay.
without talking
So-
about it, but I think we decided there was too much to talk about, and
Yeah.
We do have the 2-hour time limit.
Okay.
it's a heavy subject, so we wanted to look at more time.
Is that time sensitive, that issue?
Yeah, I'm just concerned because I know that we're going to have 2 council meetings. We're going to have a budget workshop as well, right?
Our plan is to present the financial numbers to tomorrow night, followed up by the backup document, which will probably come Thursday or Friday, and then with the council have 1 or more workshops to go through the entire budget. And then the other thing we'd also like to do is, if we could, is also distribute the budget to this body and then sit down and have a workshop with you. At the end of the process, we want you to feel comfortable. We want to tear into all the numbers and for you to understand what the city is proposing to do. And we also want the council so that we have a community consensus as to how we're going to move forward as a community, and everybody has a clear understanding of the financial resources that are being deployed in order to get there. So I look forward to having that process and having that discussion. Now, we can get into the CFDs, which is a very complex issue. One of the things I found out doing the budget is we have 59 areas and sub-areas, and some of them overlap. I mean, it's very complex, but we can also, as staff, assist this committee and also as the City Council, identifying issues, identifying potential options, and what the costs are for whatever option you choose to pursue.
Mr. Warren?
Yeah.
Our direction from council was we had a community come forward that wanted us to consider as council to remove their 2% escalator on the CFD.
Several of them have that.
Right. So the council directed the committee
Okay.
to consider how we handle those kinds of those kinds of requests, because whatever we do with that community is going to carry over to anyone else who follows us. So we're not really, our scope is not, the council did not give us direction to go into the CFDs any more than considering a process for people who want to come and submit petitions and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So,
I misunderstood, but we're happy. I guess what I'm saying is I'm prepared and our staff is prepared to assist this committee, assist the council to help formulate information, prepare policy options with its costs and its benefits, so that you as policymakers and decision makers can do it. Also, regarding subcommittee on the State Controller's report and also an audit committee, however you choose to structure it, we're prepared to assist, and we will follow up with information and provide it to whatever committee or subcommittees that you request, and so that the committee or subcommittee can verify that whatever that internal control requirement is actually in place, and they have seen it, or they have seen the documentation, or they have talked to the people. And we're here to cooperate with that effort so that we can get through. I didn't know there were 79 of them, but we'll get through all 79 of those, and at the end of the day, we'll get it done. So.
I like his idea of bringing the budget to us. Our next meeting would be 2 weeks from today, which would be...
That's a special meeting if we go 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, but we were told it's not really a special meeting. They're not called special meetings because we have in our ordinance that we can hold up to. So it doesn't need to be required as special. But so I'm trying to look at the timing. So 2 weeks from today, today's what, the 6th?
Yeah.
So it'd be on the 20th. Where would that play into your plans for bringing the budget to council?
Our plan is, as I said, to distribute the numbers tomorrow night with the follow-up backup document, which is over 100 pages, that has all the backup information, and you'll get that probably Thursday or Friday. And then we're hoping the council would establish a work meeting next week with our department heads, and we go through it, and we can have more than one of these. At the same time, we'll distribute that same information to this committee. So probably Wednesday morning, we'll distribute the spreadsheet with the numbers, and then, I'm thinking like Thursday or Friday, we will deliver to you the whole document.
This week?
This week.
Wow.
That's the battle plan. And depending on when the council wishes to actually take action, whether they want to take action before the beginning of the fiscal year or they want to go past the fiscal year, it's up to you. But we're prepared. We're prepared to have it done by July 1, and we'll have as many meetings as it takes to get there. And if you want to have some extra meetings, we're happy to attend and to answer all your questions. And I'll bring the department heads in. We'll have subject matter experts. We'll tear into all the numbers.
I would find it more valuable because, I know I've attended council meetings and I want to ask questions when and I can't because that's not the forum or setting for it. And if we don't have the people with the knowledge and resources there, then all I'm looking at is paper.
That's a good point.
I'll round up all the subject matter experts.
Okay.
And we'll bring them all in here. We'll have them all here. And if there are issues in advance that you want to let us know, so we make sure we have everybody here that can answer the questions, then we'll do that. We want everybody to feel good about it when we actually adopt it.
Yeah. If I would say we'll just join in with council when you guys...
Yeah, you know what, I was thinking that because Mike and I and Nancy are going to have to sit through this twice. However, I like your idea because the whole purpose of putting 6 citizen members on this committee was so that when you get asked questions about what the budget means, you have a better understanding. And you're right, during the council meetings, there's not the ability for you to have
No, what I'm saying is your workshop that you guys decide to do, because you're going to have a workshop.
Yeah, but that still doesn't give the committee members the access that I think the state controller wants us to have.
Do you want to set it for the 20th?
I think we could do it on the 20th.
So the workshop is not a conversation?
It's a conversation between the council
And the fine.
And no,
the
council
finance
and the
department.
experts that he's going to bring in and himself, staff. And at that point, the public can come up and speak for 3 minutes. That doesn't give the committee members the ability to say, well, what do you mean by
Are we
this?
complying with this? Or are we complying with that?
We can have workshops with this committee, we can have workshops with the council.
Because we're wearing two different hats. Council's looking at it from a budget perspective, being able to meet certain things, and then we're looking at it from, are we meeting our auditing goals, or are we, fulfilling?
And, well, this also committee was to answer to the community, too.
We're looking at it also to possibly recommend priorities. I mean, when you have a limited amount of reassurces, you got to establish priorities. And your priorities may be different than my priorities.
Yeah.
I may want more tar to fill potholes or something. You might want more parks or something. Who knows? But I mean,
The purpose of, excuse me.
Go ahead.
One of the purposes of this committee was to assist council by having more discussions here so that council could actually shorten some of the meeting, because a lot of things would get hashed out here.
Correct.
And information would get worked out that would shorten and enrich a council meeting. So if we do that here, then that helps council.
Absolutely.
Because we have financial people here that will actually make the council meeting.
Well, by that discussion, wouldn't it make sense to have the committee have a workshop first?
Yes. Because then we'd be going back and making recommendations.
So we can have a workshop with us first, and then council can follow that. I mean, that's assuming that council wants to.
So you're saying then council would have access to bullet point areas already ahead of time?
Yeah.
Before
Then
they
they could,
have the meeting?
and the 3 members who are not on this committee can listen in, get their own feedback, and make their own decision. So maybe we reverse it. We try and do ours next week sometime.
We could do that. We could have one with you next week, if you want to do that. You could
Yeah, because 2 weeks from now is the 20th of June. That's cutting it real short if we're trying to get this done by the 1st of July.
Yeah, and he said it was 100
I think we would be better to
pages.
have a special meeting next week.
For your reading enjoyment.
I have company
Love
down
that.
next week.
So can anyone not make it next Monday?
I can.
What's the date? I have an awful time next Monday. What time?
It's the 13th.
This is the 13th.
We could do it next Tuesday, too, because...
Planning Commission.
Oh, Planning Commission.
Planning Commission Tuesday?
My son's coming in from the East Coast the 13th.
How about, so it's the whole week out for you?
No, he's just here for a
About-
couple of days.
How about Wednesday?
Wednesday is the 15th.
Yeah, he leaves the 15th.
Okay.
Can we do it the 16th?
Thursday?
Yeah, can we do it the 16th?
We're 24/7. We'll do it whenever you want.
I don't want to
what do you
make it
think,
around
Well,
my
yeah, well,
schedule,
the council will have to set their own.
but, I mean, he only's going to be here for 3 days.
I like Thursday better.
I kind of hate to
Council
schedule a
can do theirs
workshop
Wednesday
while
if
he's
they
here.
want
Does
Either way.
Can anybody else make the 16th?
I just think we're butting up against time frames here, so maybe if we can do it, maybe the original plan. I thought it was a good idea to have us do it first, but my idea is that in order for it to get onto the 21st...
Well, actually, what you could do is you could adopt the budget at a special meeting even.
Right.
And actually,
I'll
technically,
go along with
by
whatever
state
the
law,
others can do.
you don't even have to have a budget to start the fiscal year, but I know of the desire of the council to make sure we're in place by July 1, and we're prepared to be in place by July 1.
Yeah, if we can, that's my goal, too.
So whenever you want to do it, we're ready.
Okay.
How about...
Okay,
I can't
when are we
do
doing
this.
it?
Okay, what are we doing?
What day are we choosing?
I'm completely clear all week. Y'all have to figure it out.
Yeah,
Pick a day.
I'm fairly clear, too.
All right,
I am, too.
I'll do my best. What day do we pick?
We haven't.
I don't like Mondays.
So Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, the 15th?
Wednesday the 15th.
Okay. 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yes. Can
And we'll have the packet by this week.
Well, what we'll do is, Tuesday night, we're handing out the numbers, the spreadsheets and everything. We'll hand those out tomorrow night. And then probably, I'm thinking Thursday, you'll actually have or Friday, you'll have the whole document for your perusal.
My thought about tomorrow night, Mike, and maybe we can address this in the council meeting tomorrow, is that now we've set our date. The committee has set their date, so tomorrow council can take that into account and determine whether we want to try and do it before or after, and we can weigh the options then. That way, because we could do it before or after. Yeah, let's address that tomorrow night.
My goal is July 1st.
I agree. I agree. So I would this time around, go before the subcommittee, before the finance.
I would need access to Lloyd's spreadsheet prior to.
Yeah, I can get it all to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I can share. Do you have Google Drive?
I don't know, but if I don't, I could
Do you
get it.
have a Gmail account?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll just share it. I'll share it with you. I'll share it with anyone who has a Gmail account. But I will get it to the city tomorrow and let them work out the technology of getting it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's all done. It's just that when I tried to print it out or save it as a PDF, Excel, it just didn't work.
I didn't try to print it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to have a copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's nice about Google Drive is it's collaborative.
Yeah.
So you could make changes, and the problem is if you make changes and overwrite somebody else's changes, then you get into an area of, what have you done? So it's better if you make your own copy.
Okay.
And then make your suggestions.
This is
Okay. So we need to have an agenda by the 10th.
The city manager's going to get
for the 15th meeting, correct?
So we got to do that one. Okay.
Yes. Right.
Agenda by the
One
10th.
agenda item.
One agenda item.
We need
Budget.
Budget.
we need to move on,
Okay.
please. All right. Bond trustee RFP response.
We have a public comment.
So we need our discussion on the Wilmington Trust interview and evaluation.
Do you want to lead with this, Milana, or do you want me to lead with that? Yes.
We have a public comment. Judy Bingham.
Judy Bingham, 115 Minnesota. Up until last year, Union Bank was Lake Elsinore's bond trustee. Since the discovery of Union Bank's participation in federal bond fraud, Lake Elsinore has switched their trustee to Wilmington Trust. Lake Elsinore's bonds also list financial advisor as Urban Futures, Bond Counsel, Stradling Yoka Carlson Roth, and Webb & Associates as the special tax consultants. It's the same players as the ones we have now. This is an industry of sorts. So if the city is intent on continuing down the road of acquiring more bond debt, I guess this is the people for you.
Okay. I'll open it up. Okay. We sent out the RFP for changing bond trustee. We only got one response, as we all know. We did discuss this in a prior standing financial committee session. We talked about the response that we got from Wilmington Trust, and the Standing Financial Committee agreed that they should be interviewed. So we met as a group. Milana was the lead person on it, so I'll open it up to Milana after this. And we scored them, we interviewed them, and it was a group of 3 people. So with that, I'll open it up to Milana because she was the lead person on it. Thank you, Milana.
Sure. We started by looking at the actual response RFP that we received from Wilmington Trust to make sure that they actually do qualify based on the RFP that we had, that they actually met all the requirements, which the 3 of us unanimously agreed they do meet the requirements of the RFP that we set forth. That is that they demonstrate that They can do the services, they have the scope of the services, they understand the complexity, and they also provide this type of service for other municipalities. That was what we were looking for. We had a series of questions for them. There were 7 questions that we asked of them, and then we left it open for them to ask us questions. And all of the notes that each of us kept is in the document that I've provided to you, so you can see how each of the 3 of us interpreted the answers to the questions that we asked them. The questions we really were most curious about was the ability of their reporting and their own internal controls on what they do with the funds, how they manage the funds. They specialize in trust services, and they have all of the requirements for trust services. They don't allow the city to write the checks. The city can direct them in requests with documentation, and then they will then perform the actual function of disbursement. They will take over all of the existing funds as they are now, trying to keep things as consistently numbered as they are as far as account numbers so that we have a smooth transition. They wanted to make sure that we weren't in trouble with any of our bonds, in that we weren't insolvent on our bonds, that we weren't behind on payments, which we are not. We are current on all the bond payments. They've all been made timely. Their concern really with transfer of the trustee is that we do it in the right time frame where we don't lose that 9/1 due date for the principal and interest payment that is due on all the bonds. They need to be sure there's a cushion so that everything can be done smoothly and that there's no loss in timing and that the bond payments all actually get credited to the bonds in a timely fashion. Their reporting, it seems to be very easy to work with. They have a lot of different online components where they will let us design some of our own reporting so that we can group statements by just the debt service accounts, or we can do it by the capitalization accounts, or we can just look at all of them at once. But they have a lot more ability for us to take the information and put it in a format that best fits our needs so that we can report back to council, to the Standing Financial Committee, to anybody what actually happened on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, on a semi-annual or annual basis in any particular fund in any manner that we see fit. We talked to them about the ability to take those reports and put them into Excel. They have that ability with all of them, so we can manipulate the information in the way that we want to see it. We just have to decide how it is we'd want to see it. Considering they were the only trustee that responded, it begs the question of if we want to make a change or if we want to stay with union. That seems to really be the only option that we have now. Letting council look at this and say, yes, we want to make a change, or, you know, it's the only one we had. Given where we are right now, the condition we're in right now, maybe we don't want to make a change, we stay with union. That both have their pros, both have their cons, and it's a tough decision, but it's very difficult to gauge anything else when no one else would respond to the RFP. We looked at the leaders in municipality bond trustee, and this is the only one that would respond. And they specifically responded to me with, thank you, but no. So it's not that they didn't get it. It's not that they missed the deadline. It's that they were not willing to step in and respond to the RFP. So you have everything there if you have any questions.
Did the subcommittee or scoring committee, did they use your scoring sheet here?
We did, but we didn't keep scores only because I wasn't measuring it against anyone else.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I just put all of the comments that each of us, because as I asked the questions of them and we asked other questions, we each then made notes, and I just put all the notes into one concise document.
And their biggest concern, Wilmington's biggest concern, it seemed, is the debt service timing.
That's one of the things they really wanted us to keep in mind. If we wanted to make a change, we need to be careful as far as the timing so that that payment gets transferred properly and timely to each of the bonds, since there's so many of them.
What kind of liabilities are there if that timing is missed?
There'd be additional interest and possibly penalties on that.
And that timing is September 1st?
They are due on September 1st. So the whole month of August would not be the time to transfer the trustee.
Right. I hear you. You know, I appreciate the committee doing this work too. It takes time to meet with people and set appointments, and I can understand why a lot of people didn't respond to this RFP. I mean, there's a lot of unknown questions here in terms of what's coming down the road, and this company seemed to be willing to take a risk.
They're willing to take the risk as long as we also have an indemnification clause where anything happening prior to them taking over as trustee, they can't be held responsible for.
We wouldn't expect them to.
No. No.
Yeah. One of the things that came up during our meeting last week was about financing. Wilmington Trust being they don't finance. We have a copy of the email that we asked John to clarify that I gave you in your handout. They only do two basic products: corporate trust services and wealth management. Wilmington Trust is a subsidiary of M&T Bank, but Wilmington Trust does not do commercial lending. So got it there.
There were a couple of good points that came up in conversation with them. One was that they seemed to be pretty strong on reporting, which made them quite different from Union Bank. They even offered to come to the city and to be one-on-one assistance with us, to show us how to do online reporting and pull whatever we wanted off of the online reporting system that they have. And they basically said pretty much everything could be downloaded and downloaded to an Excel spreadsheet and then reported off of the online system. And they said they'd be willing to help us one-on-one and show us how to pull almost anything that we needed off of their online system. And their attitude was real positive on that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the, I thought they had a real hands-on, help you kind of attitude on that, which was refreshingly different from what we seem to have gotten from Union Bank. They are very aggressively expanding on the West Coast and in the western part of the United States, so I'm not surprised that we find them popping up in a lot of cities. They haven't been well known in the West, so I'm not surprised that we see them in other cities recently. It's pretty much, they're expanding. And so I don't find that to be an alarming thing that I see them in other cities, specifically growing cities such as Lake Elsinore. I don't think that that means that they're necessarily a bad trustee. I think they're just pretty aggressively going after business. I don't think that means that they're necessarily to be looked at with a microscope, that they might be somebody that might not be an honest partner. They seemed, from everything that we looked at in terms of the research, they seemed to hold up pretty well. Their Costa Mesa office is the one that would be representing them. They seem to be very, very friendly and workable, and they seemed you know, when something's too easy, you have to kind of worry about it, and they weren't that easy. They talked about making sure that they were protected in their relationship with us, as well as us being protected in our relationship with them. So they weren't a fall-over partner either. They wanted to make sure that they were represented well in terms of their reputation and their legal representation if there was any problem. So that meant that they weren't that easy. So I didn't feel like they had their hand in our pocket. We kept asking them and poking. Elaine was really particularly good at that, asking and poking at them and saying, yeah, but what about this? And when are you going to charge us for this and that? And she can speak to that specifically, but they were very good about making sure that they didn't whammy us later with charges, and I'll leave that up to her to explain that. But overall, I thought it was pretty good.
Right. The only other thing I wanted to point out to the committee is I had the RFP on the website for the city, and I specifically sent it to 7 or 9, now I don't recall, firms that I knew just personally that did municipal trustee work. Without knowing anything else, I had no idea they were doing like Elsinore. And the representative actually said that he knows Michael Bush, which took me completely off guard. I had no idea. So it wasn't that we were looking at anybody for any particular reason. I simply just knew of those particular firms that did trustee work for municipalities specifically. It's a very narrow scope, and there really aren't that many financial institutions that do that specifically. They'll do investments, and they'll do loans, and they'll do your banking, but not necessarily bond trustee work. It's very, very specific. So.
And I think what's important too with Wilmington is that this work is a core product. So by core product, it means that it is a substantial product for this bank. Whereas Bank of America, they'll have a little, little department over here, or maybe Wells Fargo would have a little department over here, and they want their hands into all the pieces of the pie. Wilmington, this is a core product. This is what they do to earn a living for their bank. So they're highly professional, highly trained. One of the things that we talked about was with them coming over and helping staff was taking some of the best practices in the industry. What are other municipalities doing, that might be a little bit different than what we're doing, and being able to help set up the types of reports that we need and the accounting that we need and that type of thing, and I was very happy with that. So, and cost-wise, I gave you the two spreadsheets. The fees that are showing on the Union Bank, Wilmington Trust, U.S. Bank, and Wells Fargo, Union Bank, it's really hard for us to tell how much it's costing us to do business with them, because there's different pricing on so many different bonds. So Milana had sent over to us, I don't know what, 6 or 7 something.
Ones I could find briefly,
yes. We just took a handful of some existing ones that she could find that we had fees on it. So that's where the numbers came in from Union Bank. I plugged in stuff that's on that we're paying today. U.S. Bank, that actually came from, I think it was the city of Palm Desert, their actual contract that they just executed with U.S. Bank for their services. So I downloaded their contract and read through that. So those are actual fees that they have negotiated with them. Wells Fargo's, that came in from their bid. So now on Wilmington Trust, I went to just what are they going to charge us today to transfer all that we have, and what does it cost us if we add more in the future. So basically, Wilmington Trust is willing to do $1,800 all-inclusive. The only two additional fees that would pop up is if we have an escrow administration fee. That's $750 annually, not a monthly fee, it's an annual fee. And then a setup and review of any kind of an investment agreements that we have with third parties, which I don't think we have any of those in existence. So that's the only other fees. So we would be saving considerably. This is per issue, per bond issue that we pay these fees. So when we're looking at as many bonds as we have outstanding, we're talking a considerable cost difference. Future editions, the only change that really comes up with that is there is an acceptance fee, a new issue fee of $1,500. The annual administration fee would be $2,000. Again, the $750 and the $500 are if we have these types of accounts, which we currently don't. And counsel fee would only be, that is, they have to look at our bond when we issue it to make sure it's in compliance. So to start up a new account with them on any future editions would be $4,500. And then thereafter, the annual administration fee would be the $2,000. But it is all-inclusive. They don't nitpick us on funky little fees. And you can see those at Union Bank. They just nitpick us on tiny little administrative fees. So we don't have that with Wilmington Trust.
So to compare apples with apples, the transfer fees is something we don't pay if we stay with Union, correct?
We have an annual administration fee.
So right. So if you compare, the transfers, initial transfers, is what we would do to move from Union to Wilmington.
Correct.
Okay.
We don't have a acceptance fee on any of the existing bonds. They're not going to charge us that.
Right.
Okay.
This is just brand new issues in the future.
So if we compare the brand new issues, the annual fees on Union Bank are up in that top section, right?
Running us about, what is it, 3,000?
It looks like
Looks like 4,000.
4,000. We have an annual new issue, escrow admin, and fiscal agent fee.
Right. We don't have any escrow funds, and we haven't seen any fiscal agent agreements
So then we only have $2,500 annual for Union Bank.
Right.
And the annual fees for Wilmington is that 2,000?
18.
That's a transfer.
I thought that was their annual fee as well, the $1,800.
The annual fee?
Our annual fee on the bond is $1,800.
Existing bonds. It would increase if we for some reason did a new issue. We were trying to find out what the difference was between an existing and what their real higher level would be.
Okay, that clarified it for me. Thank you.
And the reason why is because we've already paid acceptance fees. We paid them to Union Bank.
Sure.
So what Wilmington is saying, we don't want you to have to pay it twice.
Understand.
We'll absorb everything that you have and go from there.
Right.
City Council was on board also with moving out of Union Bank, correct?
Well, we haven't actually voted on that till the committee brings us
the recommendation.
Well, I know the city intern, Elizabeth at the time was an advocate for us leaving Union Bank.
Yes, we were having so many difficulties with Union Bank at that time that it was unbearable. Now we're almost at a status quo, it seems like, with them.
After saying what you're just saying, going through that experience, how do you feel? If you feel like now we're at a status quo? Knowing the negative experiences, well, at least during the time you have been here.
Right. Well, I'm not sure what it's going to be in the future. I haven't had to reach out and deal with anyone at Union Bank.
Okay.
I don't know how willing they're going to be to help. I know that they don't have any online flexibility for their reporting.
And Wilmington does?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I couldn't tell you that I think most on council are eager to move away.
I just want to get the people that are in the trenches. How do they feel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the biggest things is just being able to have a solid, positive working relationship so that we can get answers to questions, make sure we do things the right way, that it's documented fully, that everybody's on the same page, and that we report it in the best way possible.
I'm sure citizens would also want to see us remove ourselves from anything that appeared improprietary or inappropriate or in the past was negative. So.
Yes. And with our new, when we get the new accounting software up to speed, all of this is going to be segregated, and we'll have much more solid reporting as well on our side as well as from
and then
investment.
if you had Wilmington, you'd have more online access to reports without having to beg the bank for them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can't do any kind of money transfers or anything online. That's, there's layers of authorizations that have to come in. They have their forms, we'll have our forms, everything's got to be executed, but nothing can transfer online. It all has to be done by Wilmington Trust.
Excuse me?
The other really nice thing too is that their staffing there is 10 people. So you're not getting Mary Lou answering the phone in customer service, and we don't know where that's at. This is in their office, 10 people, and we have 2 account reps. 2 account reps that would handle our accounts. So your primary contact, the person that you're going to, is stable.
Right, the same person, so you don't have luck of the draw every time
With
you call.
25 years of experience.
Okay.
So
I think we're ready for recommendations.
Yes,
I
we
don't
are.
want to make it.
Please, we are ready for recommendations. Time is marching on, and we're losing it. So,
I'll make a motion to suggest that we move, or suggest
Recommend.
council, recommend, there we go, recommend that we move to Wilmington Trust.
I second that motion.
do we need to call a vote?
Yep, here I go, I gotta write fast. Mayor Laura,
Aye.
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
Elaine, I say yes.
Yes.
Diana says yes.
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 Oh, all right.
Unanimous. Okay. Any staff updates?
Thank you. Oh, you're doing updates too?
I don't know. Do I have an update?
We want to meet our new
Interim city manager?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, I can introduce him so that you all get a chance to meet. I think he introduced himself to each of you before the meeting, just so you'd have an idea of who this guy is sitting here. But this is our new interim city manager, Richard Warren. And he comes with lots of experience and lots of ideas, and he's putting the 100 pages together. So you'd like to have him speak for a moment?
We would like that very much.
A moment. A moment.
Elaine.
We're limited to 2 hours, right? Is that the way it works?
Diane. Oh my gosh.
I got 20 seconds. Well, we can
You
do
got
that.
26 seconds now.
Let me get my clock ready.
Well, I'm grateful for the opportunity to come and serve you for this period of time, and thankful to the community and the City Council for the privilege and honor it is to serve you. I have 35 years of local government management experience. I became a city manager when I was 28 years old, and I've been doing that ever since then. In addition to that, being a city manager, I've also been elected to City Council, so I've been a City Council member. And when I was in college, I decided I wanted to serve my country, so I joined Army ROTC, was commissioned as second lieutenant upon graduation, and I was one of those crazy people. I was a paratrooper. I used to jump out of perfectly good airplanes, and it was a great experience. I was platoon leader and a company commander, and enjoyed that. Spent 10 and a half years in the reserves, and I also did a mission for my church in Nicaragua and Honduras while I was in college, so I do speak Spanish. So if you have any constituents that need to have something explained, that perhaps English is a second language, I'm happy to assist. But I'm excited to be here. I'm here to accomplish the City Council's goals. I'm here to serve. I'm here to make things happen and work in partnership with each one of you. I look forward to the budgetary process. One of the things I really enjoy is that I really enjoy the numbers. and getting into the budget and how we use financial resources to achieve the goals and objectives of the community, to achieve the community vision, to create the kind of community that that the people of Beaumont deserve, and I'm excited to have that opportunity. So I actually look forward to sitting down with you and tearing into all the numbers. I really enjoy doing that. So my plan is to attend all the standing financial committee meetings and to be involved and then help with some of these issues like the State Controller's report and some of these other things. So the plate is full. We make Beaumont great by all of us working together as partners. We are able to do this when we bring all of our best thinking together. So thank you very much for the opportunity to serve. Look forward to the budget workshop. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. I know we've got future agenda items.
Budget.
I think we got the next 2 meetings set.
Yeah, 2 meetings.
So we have the budget at the next one?
Get the budget, we got 2 meetings.
And then we're going to try and address the CFD process on
Yes.
the following
And
meeting.
those are the only items that I know.
Okay, so there's 3 items.
And an update on the checklist. And anybody got anything else that we've...
It's 4 items.
I think budget, and budget next one.
Yeah.
So the workshop is on the 15th.
15th.
Yes.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
What date did you guys just say?
The 15th.
Wednesday?
I thought Wednesday was the 16th.
Can I make a consideration, a
Wednesday
suggestion
the
for
15th. Sure.
the checklist or
Yeah, it's like
the agenda
At
for the
6
next?
o'clock.
Just to consider if after we've had the meetings, maybe this will be a secondary or at the next meeting, some sort of open forum for the community or a town hall in which they can answer we can answer questions, they can ask questions regarding some of these processes to clarify more of what's going on in the committee and in the city with respective just to us, not the whole community, just the financial part.
You want continued discussions on the evolution of this committee, basically?
I'm just suggesting that we discuss a potential town hall for the citizens to be able to get questions answered.
A town hall to do what again?
They do a town hall for the budget.
Do they? Does the city do a town hall for the budget?
Yeah.
Our plan was to have a public hearing at
That sounds negative. A public hearing?
a public hearing.
Is that the same
mean-
thing as a town hall? Sounds like court. I'm just,
No, it's well, I guess
yes.
you could call it a public hearing and call it a public forum, you could call it a town
Okay.
hall, but the purpose of that is so that we get the public's feedback. So our plan was to have that public hearing 2
Budget.
weeks from tomorrow night,
2
Okay.
meetings.
as part of the regular city council meeting.
that's not what, I mean, I understand if we have it as a council meeting, but that's just more of people coming up and suggesting or commenting and then council listening but can't respond because it's not on the agenda.
Well, when it's on the agenda, council can respond. So that would be on the agenda.
So
But I think what you were asking for is for the committee to hold a town hall.
that's what I'm thinking.
And I would just, but
just
you're not
putting it
talking
out there.
budget specific. You're talking about what we're doing as a committee.
Yes.
And I would,
Questions or concerns they may have. I mean, obviously, I'd love to hear them ahead of time so I can respond with the most information possible. But I feel like people in our community have a lot of questions about what we're doing, how we're doing it, who we are, whether it's beneficial, and they're confused about certain parts of things that we're doing as well. And I want to be able to let them have a voice, but also for us to respond so that there's some clarity. I feel there's a need. I see it definitely on the internet and just in hearing people in town in general. So I just wanted to throw that as an item we could discuss. If we decide not to do it, then we decide not to do it. But I would like to open that up so that there is more of a open forum opportunity at least one time.
can we put that on the July agenda?
Maybe that would be a good time at the time we discuss a name change too.
Yeah.
Because if you change the name,
I thought we already discussed it.
Yeah, we did.
We're going to make a recommendation to council to change it.
No,
No, we already-
we're going to
Okay,
agendize
so you
that.
want council to discuss the name change? You don't want us to discuss it first, what we
I
recommend?
think
did.
we should discuss it first.
We did.
But
We did a
I want to
motion.
make a recommendation what to change it.
Was there a motion?
I thought it was finance and audit.
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
Yeah, we have
I
a
didn't hear.
motion.
Sorry.
financial audit. Okay, I'm glad I asked. I didn't put that down.
Was motion and
I didn't
second?
know we took a
I'm looking
vote
for
on
it.
it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Did we take a vote on that?
We made a motion and it was seconded. I just
Did we
can't
vote
find
on
it.
it?
I must have left the room.
Okay, so currently we have,
Well, wait a second, maybe we
We
didn't.
might have just had a first and a second and not an open vote for everybody.
I
Okay.
must not have voted.
That's what happened.
Okay.
all right, we probably just
So
all
go
know
ahead,
what it is.
about the meeting thing. So what are you
Okay.
doing about the meeting?
Well, wait a second, we need to hold the vote on the finance about the name change.
Yeah, because we did not hold a vote, correct? You don't have.
Did have a motion and a second. We did not go through and get everybody's individual.
Okay, so let's do that.
We need to do
And what
that.
was the?
Finance and Audit Committee. Finance and Audit Committee was the motion. Recommend to council that we change the name of the committee to Finance and Audit.
And we don't feel that having the name audit in there might be an issue as far as being expected to audit everything that's...
I don't, the audit committee that the state controllers is laying out in their item does not give us any authority to audit the numbers itself.
Okay.
I don't believe the audit committee at Cherry Valley Audits does any of the audits now.
The only other thing.
They might recommend auditors.
Exactly, and I think that's our role as a audit committee is to recommend auditors and that.
I think it might help if we put a better description on our website of what we do. I think it's pretty...
That's it. I think we're still figuring it out.
Yeah, it's evolving.
Yeah.
Sure are.
And
Well, yeah, that's why I'm...
Well, you know, that was when we set this meeting up. We set this committee up. The committee was
kind of
set up
felt we'd go
specifically
along. Yeah.
that we would develop our own mission and our own roles,
Right.
and we would get approval from council on the direction we were heading. So it's always been a work in progress. So I don't believe that we have the ordinance that says what the committee does, but obviously that needs to be changed, and I think that's what we're going to recommend in the future.
Okay.
So,
And one of the recommendations is to change the name, so we need to vote on that. You need to vote on that.
Okay, so let's make a motion.
Mayor,
and vote.
we had a motion.
All right, so
We had a
we
motion
need
and
to
a
vote.
second.
Let's fulfill it.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
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 Yes,
yes.
Yes.
Okay, done.
the yeses have it.
Now I know we did it.
There you go. Sorry, I threw everybody off
Now I know.
with my town hall. Okay.
Okay, so we have a budget, 2 meetings, CFD process, update on checklist, and a 4th thing.
So, name change.
Uh-huh.
No more
No.
potential. So now we recommend. All right.
Yeah.
Budget, 2 meetings, CFD process, and update checklist, right?
Got it. Okay. All right, we're good. I'm going to go ahead and close this meeting at 8:09.
Jennifer, do you have about 5 minutes?